Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 17th episode of the TRVL Travel Photography Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Greg Snell, and today we are joined by Michael Shainblum, a very talented photographer, a guy I've been following for quite a while, and we've been kind of floating in the same industry for a while too. I know you're good friends with Gavin Hardcastle and the guys from the F4 road trip. And we were almost going to meet in Oregon like 5 years ago, and that didn't happen, sadly. But I'm very happy to have you on the pod. Thanks for making the time. Michael, introduce yourself.
Thanks so much, Greg. Appreciate it. Intros. Okay.
Who is Michael Shainblum? Right away, first question.
Just some guy who takes pictures, enjoys the craft of photography and being out in nature. That's okay. A good intro, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I want to learn more about you. I don't know much about your story. How you got into photography, post-processing, your whole childhood, how you grew up. I think you're from California. Is that right? I know you're in California right now. Were you born and raised in California?
Yeah. San Diego.
Okay.
Good old nice. San Diego, California.
San Diego, whale's vagina.
Yeah, we hear that a lot.
Yeah, sorry. Damn it. Oh, that's not a great way to start.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
The quote. We hear the quote a lot. We're like,
can't help myself.
Oh, we get it.
But it's meant to be one of the best climates in the world too, right? Like one of the best places to live. So
super comfortable. Really like a wonderful place for hiking and enjoying being outside. However, it's a little bit less interesting for photography in that aspect because we don't get a lot of those, like storms and interesting weather coming through. So, you wake up and it's like sunny every single day and you're like, wish there was a little bit more going on for photography.
It just needs some drama. That's why, I tend to see you up around Oregon and Washington a lot. Up on the coast. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I go where the weather goes. And then when I come back here and I'm with my family, a lot of it's just hiking and enjoying the outdoors. Like I don't pull out my camera as much when I'm back here anymore. Yeah, it's a beautiful place to still go take pictures, but
Yeah, true. So for those who don't know, the whale's vagina is an Anchorman quote. And that was an absolutely fantastic movie, but I didn't know that it would be overused. It's been quite a while now, actually, since Anchorman first came out.
Oh, I don't take offense by it.
Yeah, okay, right on. No, in San Diego, I mean, you don't even really live there anymore anyway, so that's fine. But yeah, let's dig into it. So you're born and raised in San Diego, geez. Did you go to university? Did you go to post-secondary?
I went to, so when I was in high school, I kind of had already known I wanted to do photography full time.
Damn.
And I actually probably knew by the age of 14 or 15.
Oh, okay. Well, then let me reshape my question. Sorry. Yeah. What got you into photography to begin with?
So I was always, I'll go a little further back and kind of talk about why I got into photography and it was basically through just visual art. So when I was a kid, I would do anything related to visual art. So drawing, painting, sculpting, even before I kind of knew what I was doing, I would always just gravitate towards things that were creative. Mm-hmm. If there was for example, if I was a baby and there was a toy in front of me, I would gravitate towards the toys that I could like Legos. I could construct things, I could make things, I could create. So that's where it all really stemmed from. And I found creativity in all forms of visual art, just my outlet for self-expression. That was the way I was able to show my personality. And photography, so basically through middle school I did all of that. I would be the person who's doodling through class, not paying attention.
Arts and crafts, doing Play-Doh and whatnot, and drawing. Okay, nice.
And then I think later in middle school I got really interested in trying to explore all the different visual arts that were possible. So making cartoons, painting, sculpting, stuff like that we talked about. Photography was a little bit bigger of a barrier to entry at that time, though, as you remember, because, cameras weren't that affordable. So I was using, at the time, to take like little snapshots on trips, I was using my parents', it was like an Olympus 1 megapixel camera. It's like, we have a few prints from this like New York trip I took when I was in middle school, and the prints are like that big because they're so, the megapixel was so small. But that was like my first time kind of playing around with photography. And then I took a darkroom kind of summer school class after middle school into high school. The whole reason I took it was because my parents were like, we want you to take a typing class and like take some, essentially some more traditional like summer school classes. But the cool thing about the program that I did was you got some fun electives to do. That's the right word, electives. So there was a mosaic class, which was really fun, like making stained glass mosaics. That was super cool. And then the other one I picked was a 35 millimeter photography class where we got to shoot black and white photography. And then there were some people there that helped us develop the pictures in the darkroom. And I was like, this is so cool. So that was like my first time, I would say, really like diving into the craft of it instead of just taking snapshots. And then the biggest thing that changed everything for me in terms of photography is my parents bought me my first DSLR when I was going into high school, because they knew that I was obsessed with photography. But of course, like at that time, it was a little tougher to, get into film photography. Like I didn't have a film camera. I didn't have access to film. I didn't have access to a darkroom. So they went and got me a Canon Rebel XT with a kit lens. That was my first camera. And from that point on, I took pictures every single day.
Wow.
I'd bring that camera to school. I'd take pictures. And then that's kind of also my first job, because I applied to a bunch of different places. And I don't know if I was just like awkward or I wasn't a good interview, but I swear I applied to like fast food, grocery stores, a golf course, like a bunch of places, and no one took me. And I was like, well, I want to earn a little bit of money in high school, obviously, so I can go out and do things. And I realized, well, I have a camera and people want pictures. So I started doing very small photography jobs. I did a little bit of action sports, some events for like friends and family, did some weddings, which were fun. And then what else did I do? A little bit of like band photography, concerts and stuff like that.
Events, yeah. So with the Rebel XT, all with that first original digital camera.
Yeah, Rebel XT. And then as I got a little bit more money and wanted to kind of invest in something different, I got, oh my God, what was it? I think it was a Canon.
Maybe 550D?
No, I think it was a 40D, maybe 30D or 40D. It was one with a really high shutter speed, so I could do like sequencing shots. And then I think it was my senior year, I took like all my savings and got a Canon 5D Mark II.
Right. Okay. Well, let's not get too far ahead, because that's all really, really interesting. So the first camera that you remember, shooting with, this family trip to New York on a little Olympus, and that was a point and shoot digital camera, yeah?
Oh yeah.
And then like one of those pocket ones you just put in your pocket.
You like slide the thing across.
Yeah, the little lens pops out. Yeah. So then you go back home and do a summer school elective for darkroom photography and learn how to develop. That must have been absolutely amazing, because you're right. The barrier of entry for people in our generation was definitely financial. I mean, it's like, how am I going to afford to get a camera that I can actually, create like really nice pictures with? And then on top of that, who do I know that has a darkroom? I didn't know anybody.
Yeah, and at the time I was like, I mean, my parents aren't going to pay for film to get developed, and they're definitely not going to drive me to go get film developed. So it's like having a digital camera where you can take endless pictures and just load them up on a computer. It's like, opens up a whole new world.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we're both probably around the same age too. Like I missed that film window completely personally, and I started with a digital camera. How old are you Michael?
35.
35. Okay, I'm 39. I was born in 86. So you're born in 1990?
Yes, that is
Yeah,
correct.
1990. Okay. Yeah, that explains a lot because the first camera that I had was a Canon PowerShot, and
Ooh,
it was
nice.
also in high school. With like, you turn it on and you get the little lens that pops out. But yeah, same thing. I mean, I never printed any of it because I used it basically for myself and for social media. I think I have a few old like picture books back home, but yeah, the quality's garbage. But still, yeah, my next big one was the Canon 550D, which was the Rebel T3i or something like that. So tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about the Rebel XT. Was that like 35 millimeter full frame, or was it a crop sensor? Do you remember?
It was definitely a crop sensor.
Yeah, eh?
It was like
Okay.
at the time of when Canon put it out, it was like their entry level DSLR.
Okay, so
It,
the
it
5D Mark II was when you kind of stepped up the game to the full frame DSLR. Okay,
Yeah,
got
that
it.
was my
Yeah.
first full frame camera. And also I really wanted to get into video. I really
Oh.
wanted to start doing video projects. And that was the first time where they were introducing, like, I think there was one other camera before it that did HD video in a DSLR, but that was the first time you actually got pretty good video with really awesome low light out of a DSLR.
Yeah, and
And that
still
just
good
opened up a
stills.
million doors for me creatively at the
Yeah,
time.
actually, funny enough, I met a DOP in Australia in 2013 who also said the same thing. He was like the 5D Mark II was a game changer for him and for his business. And one of the biggest points that he made was video as well. So yeah, tell me a bit about that because that's well ahead of the game in regard to like YouTube and reels and shorts and stuff now. What got you into video? Why were you excited about that?
Kind of the same reason I was excited about everything else. It was just another cool visual art to explore. I liked the idea of, you know, kind of taking, what's interesting is before video. Okay, so here's the transition from photography into video. Basically, what I would do with my older cameras is I would actually I didn't realize at the time that you could do a time lapse with a device that actually clicks the camera for you. So I would make like stop motion videos, I guess you'd call them, with my Canon Rebel XT. I'd make stop motion videos of like clouds moving and cool light trails, and then I would sequence that to music.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, the process of sequencing things to music and telling a story with it. I mean, at the time, it was just all random stuff, but I liked all of that. And I was like, oh, this would be fun to explore more, especially if I could do like actual live
Video.
video.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was the thing that interested me the most, is being able to like cut things to music. I really liked that aspect.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
that
totally
that kind of.
relate to that. Were you using Premiere Pro at the time?
I think when I first got started doing those sequencing stuff, I may have been using
Sony had one too, actually.
Windows Movie Maker.
Really?
But
Ooh.
then
Mm.
I did get Premiere Pro. Um, and yeah, then I learned Premiere, and I was using that for a really long time.
Yeah, me too. I started using Premiere in like 2008, I think. And
Hmm.
it's like the same sort of thing, just making slideshows of my photos and putting them to my favorite songs. I'd pick like the top 20 indie tracks at the time and just like smash them on top of my photos. There's no worries about royalties or any of that stuff like there is now. But
Yeah,
okay, wow.
definitely.
So you're in high school in San Diego and you're making a little business out of photography, and you say you
Hmm.
never really had like kind of a traditional first job. Have you ever had like a real job? No, you haven't, have you?
No,
That's amazing.
just done
Uh,
this ever since,
yeah, there we go.
stubbornly.
See, this is why I want to
Uh,
get you on the podcast, man. That's an incredible story. Come on.
Thank you.
That's
I appreciate
awesome.
that. I mean,
All
to me,
right.
it's a kind of boring. I'm just like, oh yeah, yeah, this is what I do. Um, but no, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's not normal. Let's put it that way. Most people would get a job at a grocery store or pizza place or whatever, but yeah, no,
Trust me, I tried. It's not for lack of trying.
yeah, that's funny.
Like no one wanted me, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
guys,
no, come on.
fine.
Now you
I
got a
won't work at
talent.
Vaughn's.
Yeah, I mean, in high school, you realize that you got a bit of a talent, you got a tool, right? And you can say to people, hey, I can take these pictures, you can use them to market whatever you're doing or for your events. So when you get out of high school, you know that you want to be a professional photographer. You said that earlier, right? So
Yeah.
tell me a bit about that conviction. How did you how did that grow to be your goal?
Yeah, I think like through all the visual art that I was doing, the thing that I was the most excited about was photography because it had all the elements that I really enjoyed. I could be creative, but I could also be outdoors. I could be exploring. I could be social with people, and experience new things through that medium. Like I got to meet so many cool people, in bands and through concerts and, cool like action sports people doing amazing things. I was like, all of this was through photography. So it was I just thought it was really interesting, that aspect of it. And then the personal side, the more like kind of introspective side, at the time, at least for me, was then I would take all those images and be able to bring them back and do post processing and kind of be in my own thoughts and be alone. And that's kind of the the sort of tranquil element of it. Now, obviously, doing landscape photography, there's a level of introspection and a level of like solitude in both the shooting and the editing. But at the time when I was in high school, the shooting side was very, very social. It was always interacting with people and doing things. I do a little bit of that now, but as for most people who follow my work, they're seeing most of the quiet side of photography.
Yeah, yeah, you do a good job of presenting that as well in your videos with the voiceover, and it's all really well documented, and it's very tranquil. Your videos are nice and chill, which I think a
Thank you.
lot of people like. Um, okay, so you decide that you want to be a professional photographer. How does one become a professional photographer outside of high school in San Diego in like what 2009, I guess, 2010?
Yeah, so I did go to college and it was for photography.
Hey, let's go. All right, tell us where. Where can we sign
This,
up?
so the school unfortunately closed down.
Ooh.
I think they were massively mismanaged financially by whatever company bought them, but it was a school called Brooks Institute in Santa Barbara, and for a long time, it was a really good school for photography. Like a lot of amazing photographers came out of there. The only downside, I'm happy I went. I made a lot of friends. It was a fun experience. And also at the time I was like pretty bad at completing things. Like I think there was a lot of moments where I probably could have just dropped out and just done my own photography thing. But I think there was a level of, I wanted to prove to myself I could just follow through with something. So I just did the 4 years, got my degree in it. But the degree is in commercial photography, and mainly specializing in portrait and studio photography. So studio portraits and then product is mainly what we learned at that school. It was
Yeah.
like, how can you light objects? How can you take pictures of people with, multiple lights and things like that? And I learned through that school that that side of photography wasn't really for me.
Mhm.
So a lot of the time in my free time, not doing those projects, I would go drive up the mountain and go take pictures of nature and the Milky Way and things like that. Um, I had some of the people at that school be very supportive and say, wow, like this, it's so cool that you're going after this type of stuff. But I also had some people at the school kind of be like, hey, it's cool that you like doing all this random nature shit, but that's not going to pay your bills, which I get what they're doing. They're being very, very realistic about it. Taking pictures of plants and rocks is not a very practical way to earn a living for sure. But I'm stubborn. I'm not going to, I'm very, very stubborn and I'm going to do what I want. That's what I want. I wanted to take pictures of that stuff. I wanted to make pictures and time lapses of the Milky Way and sunsets. And I just didn't want to sit in a dark studio all day.
Mhm.
Like doing that made me depressed. And I was like, I got into photography because I love this creative aspect and this creative outlet and how it brings me happiness.
Mhm.
And if I'm doing photography and I'm doing art and it's not bringing me happiness, then I'm just going to stop doing it. Because there's a million other ways to earn a living that are way more practical than photography in general.
Yeah, especially landscape photography. But yeah, it's photography in general is a bit of a grind, and I think that we tend to think that product and fashion have like this amazing role in photography, because they get these great jobs with like department stores or big brands, and you got hot models and like traveling all over the world and blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, there's a ton of grind behind it, like working as a grip or as an assistant or as like a driver, logistics. Like it's just there's a ton of people behind the scenes. I mean, retouchers, people who just work on Photoshop all day long, retouching the shit out of the products or the models. And at the end of the day, you get that campaign and that advertisement. But yeah, it's totally a different world, that's for sure. I worked as a grip here in Hamburg for a little while at a studio, and I hated it as well. It was terrible.
Yeah. And there's not to say, and I don't want to make it sound like in that I'm trashing any of those types of photographers, because there's a lot of creativity that can be had in those styles of photography. I'm just saying it wasn't for me. It didn't bring me happiness, that side of it.
Yeah, I think now it's really changing because of AI and how, you're going to be able to prompt these images. Like I remember these guys were working in the studio to make it look so good that it almost didn't look real. It was like 3D popping out from the background. And I'm thinking to myself the last few months, like, holy shit, those guys that I used to work with in the studio, I wonder what they're doing now, because their big clients are probably going to cut their budgets, like slash them. But I mean, this is a different topic for another podcast.
Yeah.
Still, so you go to Brooks for 4 years. I was going to ask you how long it is. So is that in the US? Is that like a university degree in commercial
Yeah.
photography? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a full bachelor's of commercial photography
I think you're the
that I've
first.
never pulled out ever.
Yeah, nice. I was going to
for
say,
any
I think you're
job.
the first person on the podcast who's actually studied photography, by the
Yeah.
way. But
I mean, there was a lot. Okay, so here's the biggest takeaway that I had from that school is the first thing it taught me, because they worked us really hard at that school. That is one thing they did, is like, I think 2 out of 3 people dropped out. They had a really, like, they were trying to get people to drop out of that school. What it did teach me is work ethic, which I did not have before that school. I was lazy in I mean, I took pictures every day, but I was pretty lazy. I was a lazy kid. And what going through that taught me was the amount of grind that you need to make it as a landscape photographer, or not even a landscape photographer, just a freelance artist. The amount of grind you need to make that work sustainably. I did learn that from that school.
good,
for sure.
good.
That like prepped me for how much work it would be to own a business. And then the second thing that I thought was pretty cool that I did take away from the commercial side of photography and brought it into all aspects of the photography and video that I do now is lighting. So truly understanding the depth of lighting, how light reflects, how it bounces off things, how it works, the warmth, the temperature, just all aspects of that, I think did help me when I started doing more nature and landscape.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. When I met Adam Gibbs, he was the first person who really kind of showed me how important light is, and we talked about it in depth for hours during the F4 road trip while we were cruising from Canada all the way down to Vegas. And yeah, that's really interesting. I think like I'm also really interested in color theory, but having you actually studied light and like playing around with it in the studio so much, I think that's really, really beneficial for landscape. And it shows in your work, man. The way you are able to paint light and work with light is very, very inspiring. So
Thank you.
you get out of Brooks in Santa Monica, did you say?
Santa Barbara, yeah.
Santa Barbara?
Close. I did work in LA a little bit.
Where is Santa Barbara?
It's just north of LA.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little coastal town. It was a nice place to live. And actually it's where I started doing my Milky Way stuff in Santa Barbara. And
so when did you move to San Francisco though? Because I know you were based there for quite a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
So did you finish Brooks, start your business, and then just move up the coast, or what's the story there?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I did take a break. I went back down to San Diego for about a year, just kind of like got my feet under me with college debt and all that. Um,
That's a
so
uniquely American problem, by the way. Yeah, that's another podcast
cool.
episode. Sorry. I hope it wasn't that
Cool,
bad.
dude.
I'm assuming you're out of debt now, though, right?
Oh, we're good. We're
Okay,
fine
nice.
now.
Yeah, okay,
But
good.
anyways, no, I was like, even though I at the time was starting to get bigger jobs out of college for photography, I still did have a lot of debt, and I was like, I need to just like take a break for
Mhm.
a second.
Sure.
And when I was down in San Diego, I think my two choices of where I wanted to move, it was either going to be LA or it was going to be San Francisco, because I did work in both places. Um, Definitely LA had more going on work wise, especially for video and photo. But San Francisco, there was something about the vibe up there that I really liked. I just really enjoyed that entire area. And I think that's the thing that just made me decide, you know what, I'm just going to go up here and we'll try it.
Yeah,
We'll
and
try it for a year or two.
we're glad you did because your photos of like the Golden Gate Bridge and the time lapse work you did of the fog, and like from the mountains, your content from the Bay Area for the last like, I want to say 10 years it feels like, but it's just phenomenal stuff, man. Like I
Thank
think
you.
some of the first stuff that got me on to your radar was your time lapse work. And you were using sliders. I remember you had like a big Rhino slider, and your work is just absolutely amazing in the fog rolling through the hills of San Francisco. Like just beautiful, beautiful stuff. So yeah, let's go back to the video side of it then. So you're keen on creating videos. Did video ever become part of your small business, or were you always freelance photography?
It's actually more video than
Ah.
so the way my business is broken up for anyone who's curious. For people who aren't curious, this is going to be really
No, no, no.
boring.
I'm sure they are. Please, if they've made it this far, I hope so. No, please
I
tell
probably
us.
didn't make it this far. Let's be real. No. Um, the way it's been broken up over time is, I would say, like, probably the biggest thing that I do is mainly commercial video and time lapse. That's been the biggest thing. Is like I'll get hired to shoot time lapse projects. Also, that's sort of evolved into a lot of aerial projects too. Um, but yeah, it'll just be commissions from different people, various industries, automotive, tech, agriculture. It's just random. Medical, like they're always random. A lot of it's word of mouth. Some of it might be SEO and through Instagram. I rarely share any of that stuff. A lot of it I can't share just because of NDAs. But that's one aspect of the business. And then I do a little bit of licensing. So stuff that I've already shot. Occasionally people will want to buy it. I'll
Mhm,
license that stuff out.
mhm.
Then I've got the workshops, which is probably my favorite part of the business. I do love teaching. I have a passion for teaching, and I find that aspect of the job really rewarding. So I've got the workshops going on. And then after that, it's like a little bit of, I've got some tutorials. I've got occasional print sales, and then I guess the last thing would be like social media advertising. So if a company wants to do some kind of advertising sponsorship and it's a company that I find to be reputable that I would actually use, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense, then, we can do a partnership deal. But those are all the facets of the business. And I actually think it's kind of important for anyone looking to get into this type of work. It's a really good idea to diversify your income streams, because you never know when one of those just gets like taken out. And then it's always good to have like other things going on so that you're not just completely out of work and out of money.
No, totally. For people that are listening to this, wondering how you are a professional photographer and how this gig works, that's really good advice. I mean, write those things down. I think the hardest thing for people to realize when they don't have any of those income streams is like where to start, and that's, I think a lot of people see their camera as a tool to start with events. Wedding is a great example, but I always found when I was telling other people how to get into freelance photography, it's like just network, talk to people in your community, look at local cafes, local breweries, local restaurants, all these companies that are going to need content of their products, and they want to market that into advertising, even if it's on social media. The latest one I saw was a friend of ours in Australia who's like an amateur hobbyist photographer, and she was making ads for an axe throwing business, like throwing axes at like a Target. And they were having a pizza night, once a month, and she made their advertisement. And I was like, there you go. That's a perfect example of how you can just make, $500. And once that ball starts rolling, you get more and more contacts and more opportunity, really. But
100%.
yeah, that's interesting to hear that's still the core of your business. And I bet some of the stuff that you've done for the industry partners is absolutely amazing. I mean, seeing some like big agriculture time lapse work would be pretty cool.
Yeah, they're those are pretty fun projects. A lot of these, like, you're not going to see. I mean, some of them go into commercials, and a lot of them are online too. Like, I did a lot of work for Samsung where I was doing tutorials and things like that. And so you can find that stuff online if you just, type in Samsung plus my name. But stuff like that is super fun. It's always random though. It's like people will just reach out for the most random projects. What was I going to say with it? I would say workshops and commercial are like pretty neck and neck now. I've definitely leaned more into teaching over time, especially as our industry kind of shifts and changes. It seems like the thing that is going to be the most sustainable, at least for me, is doing the workshops.
The experience
I still love doing people. Oh yeah, for sure, because that's not going to be taken away by AI.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, the first sort of half of this podcast has been more about like, your journey in professional photography, but I would like to kind of transition into the travel aspect for you, because, a lot of this we've just been spending around California with your, studying at the Brooks Institute, moving to San Francisco, doing all the client work and building your business, getting out of debt, and being able to make some real money and like building a life for yourself. When did the travel kind of come into it? Because I see a lot of your stuff from Oregon, from Washington, from Ireland. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, how did the travel spark begin?
Yeah, travel. It's so interesting because I never traveled as a kid.
That was my next question. Did you travel as a kid? No?
No,
Okay.
we never went anywhere.
Wow.
And it's just not what we did. Money, like, money was a little tight growing up. So my parents were pretty conscious and conservative about like what we spent money on. So we did a few trips here and there, but we didn't really do much. Like, I never was on a plane or anything like that. So it was my first time out of the country, like truly out of the country on an international trip, was I think 2014 when I was doing a job. That was my first time like out of the country.
Yeah. But you had to get a passport and like all that
Oh yeah, I
stuff.
had to go through all the stuff
Okay.
because I never needed to before.
Yeah. Where was it?
Dubai.
Holy shit.
That was
That's a
crazy
long
trip.
way. That's a
That was
big
my first
culture
time
shock.
like truly overseas on a big trip. I was
That's a culture shock, dude. Wow. Was it
crazy.
as built up in 2014? Was that big tower there? I always forget the
Oh
name.
yeah, it was already like crazy built up. Yeah, that was for a job, and honestly, most of the big travel stuff that I did started through work. It was people being like, "Hey, we need you out here in Dubai or China or, you know, yeah, various other places." And then I took a really fun international trip with some friends to Iceland for the first time, and I think it was like early 2016. So that was like an amazing, like fun personal trip. And then I did, as a personal trip, Dolomites and Faroe Islands and a bunch of other places. I got really interested in travel. and trying to expand my portfolio outside of the US, because up until that point I had mainly just shot like California, Oregon, and a bit of the Southwest. Like those were my main, my circle of photography. So I really wanted to just expand and see what else I could do in all these like cool, incredible places.
Yeah, I mean, starting in Iceland, that's a good place to start. I mean,
Oh
talk
yeah.
about an overwhelming landscape experience. It's got to be one of the most picturesque countries on earth. So going there with your friends, just driving around, I guess. Did you guys rent a car? How did you do it?
We did a camper van for that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Did you go
yeah.
all
It
the
was
way
cool.
around on your first trip?
We didn't go all the way around, but what we did was kind of like circle around the south, and then we went up the eastern or western side and kind of like through. Yeah,
Eh,
but we didn't go to like the far, far eastern
Westfield.
side.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, and how many times have you been to Iceland since then?
So I've only been to Iceland twice. It
Okay.
was that one trip, and that was more of like a winter trip.
Hmm.
So some of my first images of the aurora were taken there. A lot of classics. I did Skogafoss and the mountain, and I got Kirkjufell with the aurora over it. Um, and then my second trip was 2022. I think it was
Okay.
2021 or 2022. I went with my friend Andrew, and our main goal was to see the volcano, the lava, which was incredible. I have some of my like favorite lava pictures I've ever taken from that trip. But then also that trip, we did spend more time at various waterfalls and things like that. A lot of lush greens. It was, I think, like early September, so it was like a transition from summer into the next season, kind of like a mix of greens and browns. Um, but that second trip, I think, was my favorite because I was able to be a bit more creative on that one, I think. Like I found compositions that I was a lot more proud of on that second trip than I did the first trip that I
Okay.
took.
And were you filming then too? Were you making YouTube videos during
Not
that
in
trip?
2016. I
No, in
did some,
2022.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have from Iceland, I should have a series. It should be three videos. There's two landscape videos about creativity and things like that. And then there's one like dedicated lava video that I did
Yeah,
out
very
there.
cool. And
Yeah.
those first few trips, back around 2016, 2017, you said you went to the Faroe Islands as well. I mean, that's
Hmm.
also like kind of a unique landscape photography destination. So, was your travel inspired by photography?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
absolutely. I've a lot of my life has been inspired by, at this point, everything in my life's been inspired by photography.
Wow.
Photography carries my like my entire life.
That's very interesting because for me, it's more travel, like the actual travel experience. I want to go
Yeah.
to places and learn about like the history and the culture, but photography is a huge part of that as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I've never been to the Faroe Islands. It's not, it's somewhere I would love to go, but it's not like my top three. So
Totally fair.
what was the other one that you said? You said Faroes, Iceland, and where else? Oh,
Um,
Dolomites, Dolomites, of
yeah, I
course.
went to the Dolomites. I did
Yeah.
Scotland. I mean, I did a bunch of
Nice.
stuff. And I should preface with like photography in many ways is the catalyst for a lot of this stuff. But it oftentimes doesn't become my favorite part of the trip. Like you said, traveling, hiking, experiencing new cultures, having fun with friends. Those oftentimes are my favorite memories from these trips.
Mhm.
But the catalyst, the thing that gets me there, it's art. It's creating art and photography
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah, that's really, really cool. Like, yeah, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. Like, I know that you've been to Ireland recently, just like a few months ago.
Hmm.
Was that your first time to Ireland?
That was my second time.
Okay.
So
Yeah, how did
I
Ireland
taught,
fall onto your radar?
well, how did it?
It was
I
our
think I was,
country spotlight a little while ago. It's a fantastic photography
yeah.
destination.
I mean,
So,
I've always wanted to go. Um, and I was looking for something cool to do. The first time I went was it 2023 or 2024? years are getting weird. One of those 2 years, I was doing a Dolomites workshop, and I was like, I want to go do something before the workshop. Like I want to do a personal trip beforehand, and I want to be, close. And I was kind of looking, okay, maybe I'll do Spain, maybe I'll do Scotland, maybe I'll do Ireland. But I had some friends who also wanted to do Ireland, and I was like, oh, perfect. We'll
There
just
we
go
go.
there
Yeah.
and go explore, go do like amazing seascapes and stuff like that. So that was my first time. And then earlier this year, I did decide to or with the help of some friends, put together a workshop in Ireland. So we
Yeah,
did
with
that.
Bernard and Darren, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
Bernard did Darren.
yeah.
Yep,
Darren's
yep,
been on the
yep.
pod, and we were talking a bit about you. So, okay,
Nice.
that's cool,
Hopefully
man.
nothing bad.
Yeah, he had terrible things to say. Fucking
Um,
in his Irish accent. He's a great dude. I've actually would love to get Bernard on the pod too. That would be nice. So if he's
you
listening,
should,
yeah, if he's listening, Bernard, we want you to come over. I want to say Bernard, but that's not how you say it. I think it's
Bernard.
Bernard. Yeah, I
I
am
made that
saying it
mistake a
right.
few times.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm saying it right. So, all right. Yeah, I mean, what else is on your radar? I mean, I know you do a lot in the US. You go to Death Valley a ton. You
hmm
know, you've got amazing work along the coast of Oregon, and you're traveling a lot around the Western US. But from an international perspective, like, is there somewhere that you really want to go that you still haven't been to?
I think Patagonia's been on the list for a long time, and I've planned out a few trips, and it just never works for whatever reason. Like just logistically, something happens that ends up stopping the trip. I would still like to go there. I know that it's a very heavily shot place. Like there's so many pictures that exist of those same mountain peaks. I would like to go there to see if I could do something that feels
Unique.
me.
Mhm.
Not even unique,
Just like Michael
just
Shainblum.
me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just what would I do? What could I do there that feels like it's something I made that's me.
Mhm.
Um,
That'd be a
and
good
we'll see if
challenge.
yeah,
Do
it'd
you,
be a challenge for sure. But
do you,
I think that would be like a fun thing to do. And then I'm kind of just one of those people that's very open to places. Like I don't have any place that I'm like, I need to go here and I'm planning a trip right now. It's more like as opportunities present themselves and if something seems interesting, I'll go. But what's kind of funny about my photography, especially over the last few years, is a lot of it just isn't it's not so important that I'm in some epic new place. I can usually find something that I like to photograph that's interesting in most places that I go, even if it's a place I've been a million times. So a lot of this year for me, besides Ireland, has been dedicated to just packing up my car and going and just driving around, like exploring rainforests and waterfalls and coastal scenes,
your
redwoods.
autumn videos, where were you? Utah, I think.
Oh yeah, Utah.
That
Yeah,
was an
yeah, yeah.
awesome series.
Thank you. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
fun. That was like my favorite fall color trip that I've done so far. So even though this year I haven't like Ireland was my one international trip that I've done.
Mhm.
And to be honest with you, I probably won't do another international trip this year. I will do probably two or three next year. But for now, like this year's very much been dedicated to exploring places close to home. Like Utah is maybe the furthest place that I've been for landscape photography recently, and I don't know. I'm I'm pretty happy. I've been pretty content with it. It's been fun
Oh
to
man,
do that.
you guys are so lucky in the US though. I think a lot of the listeners and the viewers, have probably explored a bit of the Western United States, but it's so different from northern Washington all the way down to San Diego, and then of
Oh my gosh.
course, of course you got Death Valley and the other side of the mountains, and like I think Utah, as you say, is the furthest you've been. But for a lot of people like me in Europe, that's really far. Like if I was
I
driving
know.
15 hours, I'd be in like fucking Morocco. you
I
know,
know
like,
that's like a completely different
yeah,
country.
totally
And
different continent. But
for
it's like,
sure.
it's crazy, like for you, I actually think it might be further than 15 hours. So for those listening, I'm sure it is actually further. But anyway, you get
I
what
mean,
we're
to be
trying to
fair
say.
though, for me to get from where I was in near Portland down here to San Diego, I think that was like a 22-hour drive
Wow.
far. And I
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
even up
yeah.
at the top. I wasn't even up in like Seattle or anything. That was just in like Oregon. So I was just
Damn.
one state over. It's crazy.
California is massive. Yeah, I mean it's basically domestic travel at that point. Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious because in Patagonia, like you do have a pretty unique style in my opinion. I think you do really, really beautiful work with waterfalls and with
Thank
like
you.
light, the way that you use light and your desert work as well in the sand dunes of Death Valley. But I think Patagonia, like I know Patagonia quite well. I've been working down there since 2011, and I met an American photographer there named Ty Lecky, T
Hmm.
Y
I know
L E
Ty.
K K I. Yeah, you know him, right? He works for Patagonia and does some amazing
Yeah.
stuff, and he lives in El Chalten. And I met him in El Chalten, like up in the mountain. We were hiking. It was like near Laguna Torre. And I remember thinking, like, man, I just got to say, like, your images from Patagonia have been really unique. I mean, a lot of it's drone stuff, but some of his
Hmm.
wide angle stuff too that he's been able to find is really quite awesome. And I'm like, it's refreshing almost to see that because it's tough to go down there and find unique perspectives. I think Marco Grassi's also done a pretty good job. A
Yeah.
few years ago now, there's a lot of people that are kind of copying those same compositions. But when he first started doing it, it was like, okay, yeah, these are really fucking cool. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it would be a bit of a challenge for you, but I'm pretty certain you could do it. And also, do keep in mind that Patagonia is huge. It's not just the area around El Chalten and
True.
Torres del Paine. There is
Yeah.
way more there. Like Mark Adamus does a really good workshop on a boat where he goes into the Chilean fjords and they go into some super wild parts of the west coast of Patagonia that's just inaccessible. There's no roads. Like it's wild. There's some parts that
Yeah.
are really, really hard to get to. So, there's a lot down there.
Yeah, it's interesting through photography. Like, there's this level. There's part of me that I do love the exploration aspect and
Me
going and
too.
seeing like crazy places.
Hmm.
And then there's another part of me that's like, I can literally just walk down to the beach over there
And get a
and I
great
find
wide angle
some
shot.
some weird the way the light is hitting the sand is so beautiful and I'll spend hours and I like both equally.
Hmm.
There's I like the exploration, the really intense photography stuff, and then I like the stuff where like I'll just go find like some weird blades of grass and but the way the color and the light is hitting them is perfect. And it just that's the shot, you know? So I don't know, I'm weird.
I feel like it goes back to your childhood though. I mean, it's really interesting how we started this podcast where you said that, you're going back to when you were a baby and like a little child, always going for the arts and crafts stuff. Because I mean, as you know, I have a 4-year-old at home. My son is 4.5 and he has no tech in his lives. We try to limit screen time. He doesn't know how to use a phone. He doesn't know how to read. So he does a lot
Nice.
of, well, I mean, yeah, he's 4. But yeah, we're trying to do as much hands-on stuff as possible. And he loves Play-Doh. He asks if I want a pizza and he makes a pizza out of Play-Doh and then I have to fake eat it. But these kind of like
He's gonna be
he's
learning photography.
I hope so. I mean, I got the gear if he wants to give it a try. I actually have an old Canon EOS R that I would love for him to use. Actually, Nelly has her M50. Remember those little tiny ones? Canon M50?
Oh, I don't even know if I ever used one of
No, you
those.
probably didn't. You probably didn't. It's only like maybe 7 years old, but it was
Okay.
like a little vlogging camera, and she has that, and maybe he could use that because it's a lot lighter. But the point is that we're trying to get him to, do more arts and crafts type stuff, and for the most part, he enjoys it. But it sounds like you like really got into it, and obviously, it had a huge part of shaping who you are as an artist and as a professional. But what a story, man!
Thank you.
I think I'm interested to see like where you go from here because I feel
Mhm.
like you are just kind of scratching the surface when it comes to the transition into your workshop career and your travel career, within exploring more of the world, because it would be incredible to see what you could do in like Japan or
Ooh,
or in one of the stands, like taking
what
you
I
to
could
like,
do in Japan is eat a
uh,
lot of good
yeah, I
food.
bet
That's
you
what I could
just,
do in Japan. Forget the photography.
nice,
No,
nice, nice. Yeah, you go there for photos and end up coming back just like loving sushi and sake. Uh,
100%.
it's very, I mean, it's a big wide world, you know, like we have very different stories that way. I studied travel and tourism. I've been to almost 100 countries.
Yeah.
It's a lot different from your story, but I think, you know, you being able to do what you do in Ireland, and obviously the stuff in Iceland, and finding those really creative compositions is so fulfilling that the world is your oyster, you know. And again, you are lucky to be in the U.S., being able to just drive to Death Valley and have that right at your doorstep. But maybe for the listeners, like, what is it that you still love about photography, about going out to the beach and looking for that light, you know, hitting the sand just the right way? What inspires you to go out and find those images?
I think there's a lot of answers to that. I think there's a lot of answers to that. I think that though it just boils down to the main reason I started doing art in the first place, and that it makes me happy. Like when I'm out there exploring and being creative and just breathing in the nice fresh air and so besides photography, the other thing that I love doing is just being outdoors, going for walks, going for hikes. Like I try and hike and walk every single day. I think I've done like 10 miles a day for the last like 4 or 5 days.
Good for you, man. Damn.
It's just like I just love it. I just love being outside. So there's that part where I'm getting the happiness of just being outdoors. My feet are moving, my body is moving, I feel better. But then also the happiness of being able to express my creativity. And I'm never out there to capture the best photograph I've ever shot. I don't care about, maybe at one point a long time ago, I did care about that and I was trying to outdo myself and stuff like that. Now it's more just, can I find something that intrigues me, that I think is interesting for whatever reason? It could be the light, it could be the composition, it could be because a leaf looks like a ghost or something. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. I want to take a picture of that. That's the thing that keeps me going though, because if you have that mindset about creating art, like you're not trying to outdo yourself, you're just trying to out there enjoy yourself and find things that you find to be intriguing, then you never run out of things to photograph. You're always going to feel inspired. And yeah, that's kind of like every time I get out there, I'm always having a good time.
Nice. Yeah, there's a photo and everything.
Yeah.
I remember I worked for a company called Get Your Guide, and I had to photograph like travel experiences, and I would have
Hmm.
1 hour to photograph like a Segway tour in Berlin or so, you know, something like that. And I would just get really good at photographing everything, like macro details, you know, people laughing, whatever food they were eating, like didn't matter the weather, there was always a photo. That was my motto. It was like, I will always find at least 20 good shots here,
Yeah.
you know, and make it work.
And it's fun
So
to switch it up and do all these different things too, like not getting so stuck into one specific thing. I think that's one, maybe a mistake that some photographers do to themselves, is they get really stuck on one thing, but then they get really burnt out because they're just photographing like that one thing, or they get complacent with it. But if you just like, today, we're just going to do macro photography, or tomorrow, maybe I'll, fly the drone around for a little bit. And then a day later, you're like, you know what? Let's do a time lapse of something. Why not? If you just keep like whatever you feel like doing, if you just do it that way, it's hard to get bored of it, you know?
nice. It's good advice. Just go out and do it.
Yeah.
I actually forgot. I wanted to talk to you about post processing. So I know we're getting close to the end of the podcast, but I think from what I've seen of your work, like you're pretty good with like Photoshop and Adobe Lightroom and Premiere Pro. what's your story with Photoshop? Like, what have you been using it since the Brooks Institute?
I think I'm pretty proficient with Photoshop and Lightroom. Like I've done it a long time.
Have you worked for Adobe? Were they
I
ever one
have
of your
worked for
clients?
Adobe multiple times over the
Yeah, I
years. I think
thought so.
my first time was maybe like 2013. I've done tutorials for them. I've done seminars for them, done talks for them. Um,
Was that because they saw you using their software like creatively, and they were
mhm.
like, "We want to get this guy on board to talk about how he does this"? Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think Mark Adamus has kind of a similar story. Like he was using Photoshop in a way that like the developers were like, "Wow, this is incredible." But yeah, tell me a bit about that. So Adobe reached out to you in 2013.
Yeah, I've worked with them. I've worked with some of the like I've worked with the creative director of uh, with Adobe for a long time. Like we've done
Wow.
projects and I did some talks and like I did a talk and seminar in Hong Kong and Singapore for them.
Was that part of your
And
first travel experiences?
it was a long time ago. That
Yeah,
was
yeah, it must have been then,
2015.
right? So
So 10
first,
years ago.
yeah, wow.
Um, but yeah, and then I've also worked with them at different capacities. So like one project I did was I did some art installations for their headquarters. So like I did at one point they had like Milky Way photos on their elevator doors, and
Uh,
we had like a mural up somewhere in their office. And then what else do we do? We did uh, oh a while ago. This might have been 2015 or 16 or 17 in that range. If you were like if you got an advertisement for um, the Creative Cloud, my Milky Way picture was on it. So it was like that was the advertisement. And a lot of these projects were through either Adobe themselves or they were through like agencies,
hmm.
various tutorials and things like that. But yeah, no, I mean, my post processing experience is like I've always loved doing post processing. I started working on a program called Fireworks back in the day. That was like my editing program. It was a program owned by Macromedia, which Adobe bought out because they wanted Macromedia Flash. That was like the big thing. So now it's Adobe Flash. But that was like the cheaper version of Photoshop where you could edit and do things. And then I think I transitioned to Photoshop. I think I got it. I think I transitioned to it in high school, honestly. So I've been doing post processing almost maybe as long as I've been taking the photos. So it's always been a huge, huge part of the creative process. Like, um, I'd say like half of the creativity and like the style is post processing.
Mhm.
You know, it's like the way the files are handled and like the nuances of colors and just making sure things line up properly. Even just a simple crop. Like a crop can
Make a big
completely
difference.
change a photograph.
Mhm.
So I'm always thinking about that, and I'm thinking about the post processing as I'm shooting as well. Like I'm very dialed into what I might do to a photograph
Yeah,
as I'm taking the
I call it
photograph.
shoot to edit. That's one of my rules in video actually is I try and shoot to edit. Like I know my sequence while I'm recording so that in the suite, like in post processing, it's way easier to edit if I know what I'm doing in the field. But I agree. Sometimes I look at photos and I'm like, oh, I know what I can do in post to emphasize this light or to
Yeah.
remove something. Especially nowadays, man, I can remove so much. Like the distractions are like not even an issue anymore, which is kind of nice actually. Um,
And sometimes you don't, right? Like sometimes you just take a photo and then you get back to Lightroom and you're like,
yeah, it looks great.
yeah, or you're in Lightroom and you see some new possibility that you never thought was even possible when you were shooting it, right? Like
Mm.
maybe you shot the image and you were like, huh. But then you do something to it, like a crop, or maybe you darken it so that the contrast comes out and you're like, whoa. that's it, you know? So I don't know. It goes a bunch of different ways, but oftentimes it's kind of fun when you find a photograph through the post-processing. Not to say like the photo was bad and you're just over editing it to make it good. It's more just like just a part of that creative process, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I understand. Do the programs still surprise you? Because I feel like I get surprised by Photoshop every day. I mean, I'm swimming in the deep end and have been for 8 years. But
Surprise in like what way?
yeah, with the updates, with like the new features and like I feel like maybe you would start to just only use the same things over and over again. Like,
Hmm.
are there parts of your post processing that evolve and change? I assume so, but I'm curious.
I think when content aware for Phil first came out, I was just like, this is so weird and bad. And now that it's better, it has definitely made cloning out distractions easier. I like that aspect where it's like, I used to have to use the clone stamp tool, and this was before, or the clone, was it yeah, clone stamp tool before even the spot healing brush, where you literally had to click down, hold option, click and drag to somewhere else. And if you wanted to remove a telephone line or
Take a while.
pieces of dust or even just a little branch, it took like 30, 40, maybe even an hour.
Yeah, I remember wires. Wires were a pain in the ass.
Yeah. And now it's just, you just select that little spot, click a button, and it's done.
Yeah,
And I do like that part
yeah,
because,
there's the distractions removal now is there's a button for wires that does a really good job actually. Removes
yeah.
like telephone wires, which helped me in Cuba a lot.
So those evolutions that go away from the tedious stuff that I didn't like doing in post processing and allow me to get more into the creative side, I really enjoy. Now, in terms of my like the ethics of using that tool and how far I'm willing to use that tool, you know, I I try and with content aware fill and with AI, it's just like little distractions, things that aren't that relevant to the photograph, things that aren't permanent in a photograph. Like somebody walks into my frame and I'm like, shit, that was the frame, but they walked in. It's like, I will clone them out. You're getting removed out of my photo, you
Mhm.
know? But I'm not going to like heavily alter the landscape using those tools. I'm not going to be like, well, this big tree was there, but I don't like that tree. I'm just gonna, I just try and stay away from stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's, I mean, we don't see that in your work. Like all the stuff that you post online and your videos, you can tell that you're not super heavy-handed, but you have a really nice touch and it really is artistic. It's, as you say, post-processing is 50% nowadays. I mean, I spend so much time editing, man. It's unbelievable, especially videos,
Right.
especially videos. Like
Oh,
video
well,
editing
videos
takes
is
forever.
like videos take. Yeah, I mean, there's videos that have taken me way too long.
Yeah, like
People
weeks.
wonder why they don't come out
Yeah,
like
Gavin told
every
me.
week.
Gavin said that it takes him like 7 days or something to make a video. And I was like, holy shit, man. Like if I put my
There's
head down, I could probably do it in 7 hours. But like, oof, takes forever.
I think looking at like my YouTube videos, the quickest I can get them out is like, or the quickest I can get one from start to finish done is probably 4 days,
Wow.
probably
Oof.
four, because so I don't know if anyone would find this interesting, but the way the videos work is like I first take all the footage that I have, and sometimes I have an idea of what the video is supposed to be, and a lot of the times it's just like I shot what I shot. This is what I saw, and now I have to figure out if there's a story here to tell with the footage. Like, what's the takeaway here? What's the bigger takeaway about the shoot? Was it finding minimalism or abstraction? Was it overcoming a challenge that happened while shooting? That takes a long time just to even sort of craft. You shot all this stuff, but what does any of it really mean? Um, but basically, I'll take all the footage, bring it into an editing program, chop in and make sure I've got all my talking segments and see how those look. Then what I do is I'll edit the photographs, which takes quite a long time because it's like if there's 30 images for a video, edit 30 pictures to the way that you like it. That takes a long time already. Bring those photos in, find the music that fits, then add the voiceover. And then once the rough cut is done for the video, I go through like a good 3 or 4 revisions. I basically watch through the video. I have Google Docs on one end, and I'm like, I said too much here.
Making notes.
Yeah, irrelevant information here. Music cuts too fast. Vocals are too loud here. Image has too much contrast here. And I do that like 3 times usually before I'm like done with a video. It used to take me a lot longer, but now like I would say 3 or 4 days. It still takes quite a long time to get those videos done.
Wow. Yeah, that's it. No, I find that very interesting because obviously I edit videos a lot too. Are you using Premiere Pro?
Not anymore. I did switch. I switched a few years ago to Resolve.
Yeah, you're on DaVinci. Okay.
Yeah. Now
was it hard
no,
to switch? No.
No. I was having a lot of issues with Premiere crashing on me, and I was getting a little bit sick of render times. Like I would put effects on a video, and a 4K video would take like 2 hours to render, or like an hour to render. And I'm like, this is getting ridiculous. So I switched to Resolve, and I spent a dedicated 2 weeks straight of learning and understanding all of the tools that I used in Premiere and how they translated into Resolve. I would say after 2 weeks, I was comfortable enough to use it almost fully for pretty much everything I needed. There was a couple of quirks here and there that took me longer to learn, but after those 2 weeks, like Resolve is so fast for me. Like it's so fast. And I don't think there's a single thing in Premiere that I like miss at this point.
Yeah, that's good advice. I've heard that from a few people, and I have not taken the 2 weeks to do that. And I have a lot of weeks, 52 weeks in a year. So
if you take the same video, right? Like you edit together, let's say you're making like a travel vlog or a video, 20 minutes with effects, with titles, with all those things, at least for me and I had I've got an M2 MacBook Pro, and then also like a 16 core PC that I used to use for video editing. That same video that may take like, I don't know, an hour to render on Premiere, about 10 minutes with Resolve.
Damn. Yeah.
It's not even close. It's ridiculous how better optimized their rendering is. People who are listening are like, this is like so technical, but
you'd be surprised, man. I think a lot of people are interested in this stuff because it is really the behind the scenes on the YouTube side of things. I mean, that's a whole other topic, right? That I'd love to go into with people that make a lot of videos. But no, we are getting over an hour now, and I think I mean, I could talk to you for hours. But I do appreciate you taking the time. I know it's getting very close to Thanksgiving. By the time this goes live, it'll just be over Thanksgiving. But for the Americans listening and watching, happy Thanksgiving. And you want to spend time with your family. So thank you for sharing those. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for sharing those insights. I do think that the post-processing stuff is very creative and adds a lot to the images. But then seeing your vlogs where you sort of zoom in on the telephoto, seeing those vlogs where you zoom in on the telephoto and you've got the crop there and you see the image, it's like, this is it. It's right here. So that's nice to see.
Yeah. Sorry, Greg. My internet almost just went out for a second. You can hear me all right?
Yeah, right? Yeah. We haven't lost you, dude. You're still there.
Okay. Cool.
So
all right, perfect.
I guess in a way to wrap it up, keep doing what you're doing. It's really inspiring. And for those that are listening, would you be able to offer some words to them? Like, what would you say to people who are looking to get out there, travel the world, look for unique photographs? Is there any advice you would give?
The biggest thing is, it kind of goes back down to why. I feel like one of the biggest reasons, again, why I take pictures is it brings me happiness, makes me happy. I enjoy it. So I would offer the same advice for anyone else, right? It's like, do what makes you happy, do what you enjoy. I know that obviously there's a lot of trends in photography, and the way things go on social media. I would advise people to sort of not get too wrapped it up in all of that, especially the popularity contest, and just take pictures of what you are truly passionate about. And I think in turn, you're going to find people who resonate with that, especially with that authenticity. And also the other tip would be, if you want to get better at photography and art, it's practice, practice, practice. Go out there and experience as much as you possibly can. Of course, Greg and I appreciate when you watch the YouTube videos, but a YouTube video can only give you so much. You got to get out there and just go shoot. Just even if you don't have an idea of what you want to shoot, just get your camera out and start playing around.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's great advice. Yeah, man. I think that's a good way to end it. I'm excited to see more from you, but thank you for taking the time, and we will see you out and about, I'm sure. Maybe possibly even in Greenland, which would be wild.
Yeah.
That'd be wild. All right, Mr. Mike.
So much, man.
See you later.